We'll get to that.
And welcome to Couchford, everyone. At least two out of the three of us are drunk, so this is gonna be a great hour.
Yep.
Uh, I am Drew Tillman, and I am joined as always by.
Hey, I'm Volly. I'm at the other end of this ginormous blue transatlantic couch, and he may look like he's in the middle of this blue transatlantic couch, but he's actually on my end of the transatlantic couch. And this is my other half. This is Grim.
Hello.
We watched the 1956 Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie. And
It was.
yeah. So the two of you, I'm not going to say who goes first. I'll let you figure that out. First impressions of this movie.
I think our guest needs to go first.
Yeah, go for it, Graham.
Well, it's always nice to kind of look back at old films and see kind of like the old things, like when things like this used to be acceptable in films, and you can't do that anymore. The greatest thing is like you end up having the traditional damsel role, where there's like whenever something you're like, oh, we need to like how can we have like the hero stumble while leaving the room? Oh, we'll just have the woman fall over or just like be tired or something. Like, it'll be fine. We'll cover it like that.
I like how you say like can't do this anymore with that note of nostalgia of like, oh, this will be good.
Hey, I've also recently been watching like 1960s Batman, and they do the same thing there as well.
Yeah, that's true.
It's watching these old classic films. You just like, yeah, they kind of had to like not do that recently. On this, like, some films still do that, but mostly you don't tend to see it much anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to. All right, Volana,
Yeah.
what were your first impressions?
Holy crap. Despite how much we were ripping the shit out of this film. Oh, poor dog. As much as we were ripping the shit out of this film, there were points where this film was actually okay.
Yeah.
And that's about as like high praise as I could get. Is at points this was okay. Yeah. That about sums this up, Drew.
My first impressions were, this isn't terrible. They did a pretty good job on pacing. It's got a lot of really bad tropes, but at the same time, those are from the 50s, so, it was a...
Yeah, it's tropes to us now.
Yes, it was a very different time.
Yeah, very, very different.
But not terrible. I mean, they told their story. It was just kind of weird and didn't make too much sense.
Very little got explained in this.
Yes, but from what I know about the other ones, that's pretty much the same thing no matter what. So,
but of course, there's a degree of horror in not knowing, or not having things explained like handheld. Like this is how you get yourself replaced. No, like there's a degree of like not handholding, which has a degree of horror in it. Like not knowing a thing is more horrifying than knowing a thing.
That's very true. I think that's like a big part of it is they were just like, you know what, the characters don't know, so you don't need to know. Yeah. Unfortunately, it kind of makes a lot of their decisions seem really weird and rushed. And dumb.
Yeah.
But
super dumb.
What you do also have the fact that these are just like average Joes kind of with knowledge of the time kind of trying to deal with something like that.
Yeah.
Because like, a lot of the times when they're like, oh, we need to go and hide, we're going to go and hide back in the centre of town so we can kind of like find the main square where all of these people are, rather than just like, well, let's grab a bag and some supplies and go hide in the desert for like a couple of days and see what happens.
Why would you hide in the desert? You're in a perfectly good town.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, we'll just go like hide at my doctor's surgery. I mean, everyone's looking for us and they know I'm a doctor, but yeah, it'll probably be all right.
It's fine.
Go hide in the middle, it's fine. Yeah.
No one will look over
there. So a full disclosure, because Drew and I are a little bit inebriated, I'm not gonna lie, we're a little bit inebriated. Neither of us took notes, and I'm pretty sure that Grim didn't either.
Only in my mind.
All right, so this epic tale we're about to weave is Drew has joined me on the dark side with no notes, so this is going to be fun and an interesting way to get us through this movie. All right, so we open on some guy. Right, we open with what I consider like I love this trope. So we open on like the really old storytelling trope of it's a story within a story. It's a guy turning up and he recants the tale of what happened to him. He turns up and he's disheveled. His tie is partially undone, which, as we find out later, his character's like, he always has his tie done up. Like his tie is partially undone. He's covered in like scratches and dirt, and he looks disheveled. He looks tired as fuck. Like,
hold on, this is 1950s disheveled, which just means his hair is not combed.
But he is also arrested in a police station at this point. Because
Yes.
it begins with a psychiatrist coming in to diagnose this dude.
Oh no, he's in the ER. Did you miss that bit?
Oh, I knew it was like somewhere the
So
police were holding him,
in
because as
like
soon as
the
they open the door,
opening,
this nut tries to burst through.
yeah,
And
in like the opening scenes, the scene setting shots, establishing shots. In the establishing shots, we see like a neon sign that says emergency room. So I assume
Okay.
therefore it's the emergency room.
All right.
I assume therefore it's a hospital. So, however, in this hospital, actually, to be fair, it's not that unusual. They do have policemen in there, and they're like holding this guy down who's acting like a crazy person. And eventually, this psychiatrist and the doctor go in, and the doctor's like, "I know what the hell's wrong with this nutbag. Can you talk to him?" He's like, "Yeah, sure." So they go in there and they talk to this guy who's going crazy, and then the psychiatrist is like, "I'll listen to your tale. I'll listen to what's wrong with you, and we'll figure out what's wrong." Doing the good psychiatrist bit. And then we have this like really cool like wave effects, like whoo, like a dissolved scene that goes from side to side, and that transitions us to the main story. And I kind of like this trope. Like it's a real old school Victorian way of doing a thing. Like it's I'm this person on this side, and I'm going to tell you the tale. It's another narrator. It's very cool. I very much appreciated it. I thought beautiful. But of course, at the time, it's probably like, this is revolutionary. I don't watch a lot of 1950s movies, but yeah.
What? You don't watch 1950s movies every day?
Funnily enough, no.
It was the greatest part of filmmaking.
Yeah, there's not really anything to say. Like, the set design is...
it's underwhelming, let's just say that. Like, it's... Yeah. Every building pretty much has... If they're not in a house, every doctor's office, every police building, it's clearly like one set that they just like changed some things. It's like a two-tone wall with a door with frosted glass with someone's name on it. Like that's every single set. Yeah,
I don't know if we mentioned, but this film is in black and white, so there's no like awesome colourage going. To me, it very much felt like I don't know if you ever played it. If you ever played Theme Hospital, where you make a doctor's office and it's square, it has a window, it has a desk and a plant pot in it. This is what most of these scenes feel like.
Until they get to the houses later on, which the houses are overly crowded with fucking nonsense.
Intricate as fuck, yeah. So he's in this very... I don't know whether he's clearly in like a side room or something. He's not in like a proper hospital room because there's like a sofa or something in there. I don't really know. There's some weird stuff going on there. But that's basically that. There's nothing really to state. Like, the music wasn't really there at the point. The set wasn't there. The costumes were exactly as you'd expect from the 1950s to say, it's period dress. No, it is what they were wearing.
Yeah. And when it transitions back, it's a train station. He's talking about how everything was normal and I just came back from London and blah, blah. Like, I don't know what this dude's talking about half the time. Now, granted, I might just be drunk.
We did also disclosure. We did talk over a lot of this because
it wasn't that interesting.
There was a lot of build up, which was very slow and very measured.
Yeah, but then once it got going, it kind of stuck to it. It didn't really slow down again.
Actually, like you were saying about the pacing of this film, it's actually genuinely better than most things we've seen recently. Mm-hmm. Because it does a very slow build up, very slow ramp up to what like the finale is, and the payoff at the end is worth it. It's a very good smooth curve. Like this is from A to B. This is a 45-degree angle, and it did it very well.
Yeah, it increased the speed slowly, but then it just kept going. Like it didn't do the standard thing we see a lot now in movies, which is like the rising and falling action. No, this was pretty much just like, here we go.
It's mainly because you didn't really have action there. Like the most exciting thing that happened was someone grappling someone else.
That's true.
And then the threat of lots of people grappling someone that never actually came to it.
Okay, there's some scenes from the beginning I do want to talk about. So one, it's the narration of the train station that we then watch a man pay like a dime to just take some bags off of some guy's cart, like some luggage bags. So apparently in the 1950s you could walk up to any sort of luggage handler and just be like, yeah, those are mine. Here's a dime. I don't care what's in here.
Yeah,
the dude gets picked, right? This guy gets picked up and starts driving to his doctor's practice because we find out he's a doctor, or it reestablishes whatever. Nearly runs a child over because the child runs away. Gets to the doctor's office, talks about how no one's sick but everyone's sick, and the part I want to talk about is the kid gets brought in by, I guess, his grandmother.
Yeah, so Yeah, the kid almost gets run over by the car, which I still maintain braked before it even saw the kid running out into the road, like psychic man or psychic car or something. So yeah, we have the kid, and I'm pretty sure he is the grandchild of the woman because she talks about her daughter-in-law.
Yeah, okay. But the scene I want to talk about is, first of all, he just gives these kids some drugs, and then, in a way that only you could only do in the 1950s, he slaps his kid on the ass as he leaves his office.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, what?
That's he also like tells him to close his eyes and open his mouth.
That's true. He tells him that.
This
is a thing you could not do today, for good reason.
No, like that whole scene, like from a today point of view, is I'm just gonna reach into my random cupboard of medicine and give like this woman some random drugs to give to this kid. I am clearly not diagnosed.
No.
I tell this kid to open his mouth, and he does it in the weirdest, like I'm gonna receive something kind of a way. Has his eyes closed like really tight, and the doctor puts the drugs in and makes him drink the water.
I mean, this would be the equivalent of going to a doctor's office, being upset, and then just be like, here's a Xanax. Just take it right now. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't diagnose you, but here you go. Have a drug.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, now I've given it to you. He basically tells the kid to go away.
He's like, all right, get the fuck out of here.
Almost literally. He's like, I've
had the drugs, go away.
Get
Give
out.
him every 4 hours. Go.
This is what you came for.
Yeah, tousles the kid's hair and then slaps him on the butt to get him out. And I was just like, oh.
Which, speaking of tousling hair, at one point, I think a few minutes before this, he drops someone off somewhere and then tousles a kid's hair just who's walking by on the street.
Yeah, he's like, this kid's running past and he just suddenly reaches out, grabs him by the head and gives him a headshot. It's like, that kid was probably just like, what the hell? Like, just like running around and someone just grabs you by the head. Like,
the 1950s sounds terrible.
Yeah. So pretty early on, this is something I had to go research during the film because we got really confused by this. During these opening scenes where the kid gets the medicine and we find out the kid doesn't believe that his mother is actually his mother, we hear information from the nurse who's also his assistant saying, oh, this person doesn't believe that her uncle is her uncle. These kind of like tales of stuff like that. And everyone was sick and now they're suddenly not. So we know what's going on. So during all of this, we learn that there is a woman, Becky, I think her name is, and she walks into the doctor's office and we can tell immediately that she has to be the love interest because the music goes sentimental.
It's just a huge, massive, jarring change of music all of a sudden.
Actually, yeah, let's hold on for a second. Let's talk about the fucking scoring of this music.
I just remember that it was scored by some dude named something Dragon. That's all I remembered.
There's that. But also, this scoring on this is clearly like a holdover from the days of silent films, where like when people are running, it's playing like like it's like, why are you scoring it this way? Just play some music. No, I have to score these people moving and sneaking around.
It's very jarring. Like here's the music that clearly denotes here's the love interest. Here's the music that clearly denotes you should be scared now. And here's the music that clearly denotes, oh no, the body's missing.
And there's like probably like da 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 music really and something like, wow, shocking. We came back to examine the body and it was gone. Like,
yeah, there are so many points through this movie where the music's just like, oh, that's not good.
Yeah, it's real rough. Another thing I want to talk about is he goes to somebody's house. He takes this quote unquote married woman out to dinner, gets called.
That was my thing, right?
Yeah, that was your thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, so at the very beginning when we meet her, she says that she's been to Reno 2 months ago. Oh, not the very beginning. I think it's slightly after we meet her.
Isn't it his assistant says that?
No, it's the woman because she says she went to Reno 2 months ago, and he says that he went to Reno 5 months ago, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And I was like, what the hell is this? What is going to Reno? What's going on? Because at the beginning, he says he's not interested in married women. And then he's like, within a day of knowing this woman, he's already macking on her like there's no tomorrow. It's ridiculous. Really so I was like, this can't be, there's got to be something going on. What is this reference? So I had to go check it out. Like in the 1940s and 1950s, like Nevada and especially Reno was known for the place you could just go to for 6 weeks and then get a divorce. Like that was just the thing. I'm like, oh, that makes more sense now. Now he's not a complete tool.
Topical references from the 50s, man.
Yeah, really got to research those.
Oof, yeah.
He takes her out to eat at this restaurant where no one's at.
Yeah,
then gets called away to go to I guess his friend's house, someone he knows because it's a small town. And he's like, "Oh yes, come inside, but don't call the police."
In the most weird, like strangest way ever. Like in this situation, the way this dude actually like opens the door with like a glass of brandy in his hand, like, and like wearing like a clothing. Like, are you about to advise me in for some kind of strip show or something, or what?
Are we about to swing? What's going on?
It was. That's the kind of thing. Like, it's just the kind of like swingers party. You know?
Not only that, he's at dinner with this woman, and he's like, "Oh, it'll be a while," and she's like, "I can come with you." And these people don't question that. They're just like, "Oh, hello, Becky. You're supposed to be here, obviously."
Yeah, clearly he's like, I'm going to take this woman on a date. Oh, wait, I'm going to take her on a date to diagnose something, who knows what. Like,
somewhere.
You don't take a date on a doctor's trip. You don't go to take her to, like, diagnose someone when you do something. That's not okay. You know, confidentiality, all this bullshit. But apparently, no one gives a fuck.
They had that back in the 1950s, so.
Fuck, it's a huge mess. And this guy's like, promise not to call the police. I have something to show you, though. Again, not the way you lead up to this conversation.
No.
You don't go, hey, don't call the police. I'm going to show you something real weird.
And he's like, is there anything sick? He's like, is who's sick? No one's sick. Who's unwell? No one's unwell. And what the hell am I doing here?
Come inside,
I'll show you. What the hell did I interrupt my dinner for? What the fuck is this?
And we find out that there's a body on their pool table.
Because that's where you put your body, obviously. Like, right. Which he never explains anything about. Like, he's never like, oh yeah, I found this body somewhere. It's like, yeah, there's a body on my pool table, and no one asks why.
No one asks where it came from, what it is. They're just like, huh.
Yeah, what I loved about this scene, like, this is where the sets get interesting, all right? So in this room, there is like a bar. And it's so filled with glasses and weird accoutrements. Like, there are so many weird things in this room. There are so many glasses, so many bottles, so much alcohol. There's a really ginormous, like, brandy glass that's the size of some dude's head. There are things on the wall. Like, this set looks like a genuine place that some people would live in. Like, there would be so much things. Like, the set dressing on this set is really good.
Get the cuckoo clock.
I got really absorbed in the movie posters above the fireplace. I completely missed a whole section of conversation because I was looking at the movie posters.
The other thing is, this place is so crowded, I'm surprised anyone can move around in this set. Like,
or play pool.
Or play pool. There's like 8 chairs in one shot. Like, why do you have so many chairs?
Yeah, I think you're right. So much stuff there. Like, you could never play pool, that amount of crap there.
No.
Like, it would happen. So yeah, like he goes to the pool table. He turns the light on because it's dramatic. He pulls back like the sheet covering this dead body, and it's really you can tell because the music goes on forever. Dun 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 dun. It is unbelievable how long they hold this music for, and he's just staring at this body. But because we're looking at it, like, it doesn't look anything other than a dead body, and we're supposed to be seeing something else.
There's nothing special about it because, like, oh yeah, look how featureless this dude is. Well, no, he's got a haircut. He's slightly balding. You can see he's got like light sideburns on the go there. He's got like a thin beard, and you know, it's like he's completely featureless. Like, no, you could actually put a description of this guy to someone and you'd be able to recognize him. It wasn't like, oh no, he's got no face or something weird like that.
I honestly, the way they were talking, I would have expected to see somebody with like just literally no face.
I think they would have done better to have done that, to have some kind of like cover over the eyes or something with a completely blank kind of.
It was the 1950s. I think they would have had to kill somebody to do that.
Yeah, I guess so. Or at least, I mean, like, it wasn't like a moving body. You could have just had a mannequin there that you could just like do that to a mannequin.
That's also true. And then one of the guys goes to pour some drinks and somehow cuts his hand. None of us can figure it out.
Of course.
Yeah.
Not one of us can figure out what he did. He's pouring and then drops the bottle and just has a gash on his hand.
Well, I think he's meant to be reacting in shock to the fact the woman's like pieced together the fact that
listen, I've been shocked before and I don't spontaneously get wounds on my hand.
You can spontaneously shank yourself with a broken glass.
The wife of the writer, Jack, the wife, I don't remember her name. It's probably something dumb like Betty, I don't really know. So the wife pieces together, it's like, it has the same height and shape of my husband, it's clearly gonna turn into him, and then out of shock, like, this thing happens, and then like the doctor does the right thing and looks at the wound and, like, I don't know, spits on it or something, and then like covers it with a what or something.
Spits on it.
And then the husband and the wife, Jack and the wife, are just like, nah, just go home, we got this.
Yeah, they're just like,
we should call the cops, and they're like, nah, it's fine.
It's fine, whatever.
We'll have a tale to tell tomorrow.
We're just gonna hold this body for a while. Like what?
It's fine. We'll
And
just
like,
hold on to
the
it.
doctor's just like, well, I'm going to go home. I mean, so they check its fingerprints. It has no fingerprints.
Yeah.
So they're just like, oh, this is weird. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. So the doctor takes his love interest home, where her dad is coming out of the basement. Also, they go inside and have some weird flirting. It's super weird. And then
the flirting in this is unreal.
And they hear someone coming up the basement stairs, and they're just like, what?
Which I thought was the husband to start with.
I was like, the husband? And then she's like, oh, hello, Dad. And it's like, what? What are you in the basement for?
Like, surely she would figure that her dad would be home.
Right? Such a fucking mess. Let's see. After that, so then the doctor goes home, and he's asleep or whatever. Gets a phone call, because it cuts back to the writer's house, where they are asleep at the bar. First of all, none of us commented on that, but I was very confused. They apparently don't have beds.
Well, for me, it's like, how can you sleep upright like that? I mean, they were probably like almost upright sleeping there. And the wife wakes up at like 1. Oh yeah, because this is the thing I'd forgotten to mention earlier, like old school jump scare.
Yeah.
Old school jump scare where like the cuckoo clock goes off at 9 o'clock and it makes like the main female, Becky, like jump a foot in the air, and it's like, that's old school jump scares. That was just done to do that. Anyway, so the clock goes off at 1 a.m. and she looks, the wife like realizes her husband isn't awake, and she looks over at the dead body on the thing, and oh no, it opens its eyes and it looks like her husband. And then the body on the table begins to get a cut on its hand from where he cut it earlier. And then she's like, fuck, we need to leave. The first smart thing that has ever happened. This woman, props to her, probably the smartest person in this goddamn film. Because from the minute it starts, she's like, we shouldn't be here. We should destroy it. This thing is going to turn into my husband. Let's leave. Like, everything she does is actually smart. Like, from the beginning when she appears in this thing, like, genuinely is a smart person. So she grabs the husband and they leave.
They go.
They
run away. They go to the doctor's house. And then he's like, oh my god, yeah, you're here. What? And at some point, he freaks out, and he's like, I have to go check on my girlfriend.
Yeah.
So he just leaves.
He calls someone over first. He literally gets on the phone and goes, you need to come meet me here. You two guys stay here. And then without saying anything, he just jumps in the car and drives off.
Yeah, I think he's calling the psychiatrist. Because there's one psychiatrist in town.
Yeah, that's got to be who it is. It's got to be who it is, because he shows up next. But it's so funny, because he's like, come meet me. And then just abandons these two people. Without a word. Just like, bye. Drives.
So we have this wonderful piece of narration of like, I don't know, it might have been a premonition. I had to go save her. And throughout this whole film, like, he's narrating as it goes on, like, I got a bad feeling and this shouldn't have happened. Yada. So we get this cool bit of narration, and he goes in and he goes to the front door and realizes that he shouldn't ring the doorbell because maybe it would give away that he's there. So his brilliant solution is to break a window, climb into the basement.
So I would point out we also get the first bit of his amazing, awesome action hero driving as he kangaroos his car up the road. Like, dude, but it's American, so it must be an automatic, and somehow he's still screwing with a clutch. Like, dude, you don't have a clutch. What are you doing?
It was the 1950s. That was not an automatic. That had to be a manual.
Well, I mean, it's just like, but it's like looking at the way it's just bouncing up the road, just like. Whoa!
Which, not only that, he crawled over the seat to get out the passenger side instead of getting out the driver's side and running around.
And he clearly left the handbrake off because it kept rolling.
He kept moving. So he sneaks into the basement, looks around, and finds a body, and then freaks out. So he goes upstairs.
He finds the body of the girl.
So he goes upstairs, and then leaps on her in bed, which she doesn't wake up. She jumps on her, like pounces on her like a cat, and she doesn't move. And he's like, whatever. And then picks her up and just leaves with her. He's a doctor, and at no point did he go, that's not right.
No,
she's unresponsive.
He just goes in and kidnaps this girl and runs away with her. And I would think, as her father, I would be very pissed off by that. I think I would have maybe let him know. I've maybe gone, there's her dead body down there. I'm gonna make sure she's awake to get the fuck out. And then later on, as he's in the hallway, like about to get to the door to run out of the house, like her arm just mysteriously appears over his shoulder because she's like, he can't carry me like this much longer. Puts his arm over the shoulder. It's so funny.
But That was also the start of my next favorite thing that happened here, because he goes back to his practice. The psychiatrist is there. They have a
His
little.
house. Goes back to his house.
He goes back to his house with the girl. The psychiatrist shows up, and they have a little chat, and they go back to the writer's house to see the dead body. Oh, there's no body. We get a really long musical sting.
We get this amazing piece of camera work where it's clearly done from up above. Like, it's looking down at the door. Whereas if they brought it down a little bit, it'd be in line with the thing, and we'd see too early that the body wasn't there. And as soon as they opened the door and we saw that frame, I think all three of us like, body's gone. Clearly. And it does. It just pans down like there's no body. What else is going to be?
And the psychiatrist is so just like, yeah, obviously, it was a man who burned his own fingerprints off with acid and just looked like Jack, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, the guy goes.
The guy who's like most logical and
So
it's basically this guy with Sherlock Holmes. Basically.
Yeah.
So they convince him after another long thing. They convince him to go to Becky, the doctor's love interest's basement, to look at her dead body. And instead of ringing the doorbell, they apparently all climb in through the fucking broken window.
Because it just jumps to them being in the basement, and he's just like, "Here's the trolley where we saw it." He lifts up the lid, and there's just like some
rags.
Some rags that were like kind of in the position she was in. It was like, "Oh yeah, it's just your mind." He goes this long rad, and then suddenly the dad turns up on the stairs, like, "What the hell are you doing in the basement?"
And there's sirens in the background, like.
Yeah, he's like, "I've called the cops." Like,
to me, it's hilarious. Like, there's a psychiatrist who's clearly trying to explain away all of these things. Like, you're not sane. This is not right. I wouldn't, as that psychiatrist, have climbed through a broken window. No, listen, there's got to be a line there somewhere, dude. I mean, come on.
But it continues, because then after you hear the cops and the dad's like, "I called the cops," and you just hear this guy yell at them, and there's a cop leaning in through the broken window with a gun out. What are you doing in here?
It was the best. It was the best thing.
And then they start with the great explanations, because it's like, "Yeah, well, we just came from our friend where there's the body on his chair. There was a body? Oh, don't worry, it's gone now." Like, why'd
you wait so long?
Well, yeah, why didn't you? He's like, "So when did you find it?" "About 7 o'clock yesterday." Like, and you didn't report it? Like, "No, we were going to do it tomorrow or whatever." It's like, "But it's gone now."
And then the cop's just like, "All right, go home." Like,
like break it up. Like, it's literally this like proper like old school thinking cop, like with a little pistol, maybe a little worse for wear physically. Just like he just has that kind of like like we found a body. You guys need to sod off. Like, this body matches the body you described that went missing earlier. I love this guy. I want this guy to be in all these shitty movies. I need it.
But then
he actually says the body was found on fire, like several miles away as well, which is really hilarious. Like, "Oh, this body that went missing. Yeah, someone tried to dispose of it. Go home, guys.
Go home. It's late. Go get some sleep." But then it gets worse, because the next morning, the doctor is getting Becky is making eggs for the doctor, and she's gonna boil them for 2 minutes. They hear a noise in the basement. And the guy's like, "Who's down there?" And some dude just is like, "Gas man, I'm moving your meter outside."
And he's just like, "Does no one ask permission before going into basements?"
How did he get down there? Why is he moving the gas meter? The gas is clearly still on.
And why the fuck is this scene in here?
It's so
like,
there's it's just a jump scare, isn't it? It's just there literally to build up tension, because it's never mentioned again in any way. It's irrelevant.
As soon as they see the gas guy, he's just like, "Okay." And then the girl's like, "Oh, eggs are done." It was like 10 seconds.
That was not 2 minutes. In any way, shape, or form.
No, not even a little bit.
At all. There is the worst kind of like him throwing himself at her moments, and she's just not responding like at all. She's like, "Dude, no." And it's just so funny. Just this little scene is like, why is this here?
This is awkward. Please stop.
Yeah.
Some of the romance scenes were just like, wow, this is how you can tell someone's not into you.
Yeah. There was no risk, because she's been doing this like the whole freaking movie, like rebuffing him in certain ways. And sometimes she's like, "I love you," but in other ways she's like, "No, get the fuck away from me." Like it's just ebb and flow with her. It's just like, what the hell is this?
It's a mess. I don't remember what happens next, though.
I don't know where we go. Like, I honestly...
There's a scene in between this and the next one that I know
they
about.
go back to the doctor's surgery.
And the two people turn up and they're no longer freaking out about it.
That's
right. They see the little boy and the grandma, and they seem to be perfectly fine, like nothing ever happened. And he's like, that's freaking weird. And then we smash cut back to his house where they're having a nighttime barbecue.
Oh, yeah, that's it. The nighttime barbecue. Because it was like, they're just sitting there, like, having what looks like a summer party, but being black and white, it's hard to tell. But the sky behind them is black.
It's black.
So it must be night. So they're having a barbecue, like, late at night. And then you have the greenhouse scene where, like, suddenly... like
the greenhouse
super secret hidden pods, which are just like laid out in plain sight in the greenhouse.
Yeah,
they start popping open
loudly.
It starts off looking like a cabbage. Okay, I'm gonna shoot. It looks like a really shitty Brussels sprout, right? And it's ginormous. And this thing cracks down the middle, and it's filled with this weird foam type ball crap. And we just see this kind of like thing emerge from it, covered in all these like white, thick, gooey substance, like a web. And then as it eventually falls out more, you see it's roughly the shape of a person. And more importantly, it has to be absolutely clean. It's got to be sterile as fuck, because this thing is covered in very liquid soap bubbles. There is no getting away from that.
It's just soap bubbles.
Yeah. And then they must have had someone off scene, like blowing a fan lit to try and clear them in a certain way, because there were bits where, like, it's showing you this long scene. Like, I must be meant to see something happening here, because we're watching this for a really long time. Oh, the bubbles on the side of her face are starting to fade away. Like, you can tell it's now like, oh, look, it's the face of a woman underneath those bubbles.
Yeah.
There she is.
Yeah, these bubbles get slowly, like, whisked away, and we see that they're beginning to turn into the 4 people who are currently in the house. There are 4 pods. And then, like, the doctor, Jack, has the smartest move ever. Let's stab these fuckers with a pitchfork. And the doctor's like, no.
Not yet. Let me go call the FBI.
Yeah.
So he runs inside, gets the operator. Call the FBI in Los Angeles. Of course it doesn't work, everybody, because the plant people are everywhere.
They're everywhere. It's a conspiracy.
And then he was like, keep trying. Try these other places. And he sends Jack, the writer, and his wife off, and is just like, I have to stay here, because the operator's going to call me back, and if I'm gone, they'll know.
They'll know, and they'll close the roads, and you'll never be able to leave.
Which he admittedly follows that plan for about 60 seconds before he decides to bail out anyway.
Yeah.
Because he stabs the plant. Eventually, he stabs the plant people about 60 seconds later, like Grim said. And they just get in the car and leave. And then the cops start chasing them. There's now just a scene of the cops chasing them.
Yeah, they get chased. They go to a gas station, and they get some like these pods, right? I think they look very suspiciously like a corn on the cob with like the lettuce leaf that's grown up like way too big. That's basically what it looks like.
Super light as well.
Yeah.
People keep throwing these things around like one-handed. Like, yeah, this might be the size of my torso, but I can easily lift it one-handed. Like,
It's supposed to be growing a human being body type shape in there. It's like, you can't lift that with one hand. What the hell is going on with you? Anyway, so these things get turfed in the back, and they eventually turf them out, and they're like, oh no, we're totally screwed. So
that was the ultimate sneaky move on behalf of the gas man. They're like, hey, I'm just going to go quickly check your back tire and slip these 2 gigantic pods like the size of my torso in there. Like, you didn't see those tucked under my shirt a second ago, did you? But wow, they're there.
Boom, pods. So they ditch their car in a used car lot, and to hide their car, they move like one of the signs of how much it costs onto their own car. So their black and white Ford sedan isn't seen, and they break into his doctor's surgery.
The one place that no one would ever think to find the doctor in his own practice.
Yes.
Yeah, like of all the hiding places you could ever go, like, hey, we're clearly hemmed in by like geological structures in all directions. There's no way we could just like drive out of town or anything. Or like, how far could it possibly be to the next town? Like, I guess they are in the desert. It might end up being like a couple 100 miles or something. But
I mean, but to be fair to them, it does work for all of 30 seconds.
That's true.
And they hear someone coming along the corridor, so they hide in a cupboard. Why not? They hide in a cupboard with a grate, and they're like, well, this is working, and then they sneak out. And that's their night. They take drugs. He's like, here, take this. It will stop you from falling asleep, because when you fall asleep, you turn into these weird pod people.
Yep.
So they take these drugs. They basically take speed and live the night away. I'm pretty sure at this point he kisses her, we fade to black.
No, not yet, because they look out the window and see. They're like, "Oh, it's so busy outside for 7 o'clock
No,
in
no,
the
no.
morning."
The night
No,
time.
it's in the morning.
Oh, the
This is
nighttime.
night.
You're right.
There's
Yeah.
also an enormous number of cigarettes by the morning.
Very
Oh my
Like,
God, yeah.
the morning scene starts off with like the zoom in of the cigarette thing with like 10 like cigarette butts in it. Like,
There's a lot.
these guys clearly had nothing to do with night except smoke. Like,
Just sat there.
Well,
and
I was
slept.
thinking, it's the thing they did back in today, which is, have the sex and then have the cigarette. So
that
my
was what I
brain
was
went,
thinking of,
it's
actually.
literally, they had a kiss, it's faded to black, and now there's a crap ton of cigarettes. I wonder what this means. And then they're just there, they're fine, they look okay. They're like, oh, all right, fair enough.
They've just been stress smoking.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so the next
If that's what you
day,
call it.
yeah, so the next day, there's so many people outside for 7 o'clock in the morning. Why is that? And a bus comes in and some strangers are in town. But that doesn't matter because literally that doesn't matter at all. They're just like, oh, that's weird. The next scene is all these pod people gathering around trucks full of pods.
Well, actually, those people get grabbed by the police and thrown in the back of a police car and driven off.
Yeah, but like it never comes up again. It's literally
No, but I'm assuming that they were then being converted themselves into pod
I
people.
assume,
Like, they
yeah.
could be taken to a cell, would near a pod, and then left there until they became pod people.
Yeah, I mean, this is the one bit of like the film I thought was actually done really well is they make this really. I think they must kill the music at this point because I didn't notice it, which is maybe the only time I didn't notice the music. Is we look down through their doctor's office window and we see like this triangle with like a green on it and some trees and all this good shit, and we see all the roads either side, and we basically look down and we see no one there apart from the police constable and a couple of other people in this green area, and we see all the people from 3 sides just slowly, calmly walking towards the center. I'm like, oh, that's a nice build. That's a nice suspense build of like, oh, what the fuck is going on here? I genuinely like that. I thought that was well done. Like back in today, that was probably really freaking, really horrible because I'm pretty sure the music wasn't there. It was really cold and really somber. So we watch these people gather and they're like, what the hell's going on? And they see these 3 kind of like army looking truck things turn up, and it reveals that they are filled with pods. They are crammed filled with pods. And all the townspeople are basically grabbing pods and shoving them in the back of their car. And
to go visit family.
Yeah, to go visit their family.
It's interesting though because it's like you've got the police constable guy who's actually reading out orders like in a military style operation. Like people in this quadrant will go and report to truck 1. People in this quadrant will report to truck 1. People in this quadrant to truck 2. And it was like reading out. And as he was reading out the names, people going to the trucks, picking up the pods and putting them in their own cars to go and spread it across the country. And that was really cool because it kind of that scene kind of quickly kind of been like, oh, this is spreading very quickly. Like this is really rapidly going to get out of hand.
That escalated the tension like really well.
It really did.
I mean, we were some of us getting pretty turned by that point, so it didn't really have the effect it probably should have. And it's a film that we know all of us were just like, oh my god, how far are we through? 10 minutes? Oh my god. But this scene was really well done. I thought it was really good.
But then the pod people find them in the doctor's office and surround them, and they're just like, aha, guess what? We've brought pods for you.
Well, actually, it's the guy who turns back. So it was the
Yeah.
writer who they'd sent out to go and get help. He kind of knocks on the door and goes, yeah, I've made it back. And they're like, yay. And then he turns up with loads of other pod people. And it's like, oh, I guess you can get
Aw, my plan
No.
failed.
Wah, wah, wah. So they did the ultimate villain thing of locking them inside this room.
Where they have access to all the things they could possibly need to escape.
Yes. So Jack does this daring. The doctor does this daring thing. Miles, that's his name. God damn it. Miles grabs like a bunch of syringes and knives and shit, and he sneaks into because the cupboard they hid in has actually got 2 doors on it. So he pushes something against the door so they can't get out. Goes through like this double entrance like storage room and goes and attacks the 2 guys from behind, the ones that have been monologuing at them about how evil, how good it is to be a pod person. Like there's no emotions, you have to worry about that shit. Like it completely duplicates you down to all the atoms. You'll feel fine because you won't feel anything.
It's perfect. The world's perfect.
It's beautiful, and it explains that the pods came from a seed which came from outer space. And that was basically the entire thing of like, this is how this got here.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's brief but short. And they monologue, a very short monologue, and then they piss off. And then they get attacked and knocked down. And then the 2 of them escape.
Yep, and they escape and they do the thing. They're like, show no emotions. We'll just walk through the streets. Which lasts for literally 5 seconds because the girl sees a dog almost get hit by a truck and freaks out. So then everyone knows they're not converted pod people.
But they don't do anything about it. There's like one cop guy who really obviously sees this was emotionally goes, That's suspicious. I'm going to go upstairs and check on where these people who are supposed to be guarding them have gone. And let them get away.
Yep. And then he runs downstairs and tells everyone, like, oh, everyone, they're unconverted. Catch them. Which then starts the longest and weirdest chase scene.
Yeah.
Up the stairs.
Up some fucking stairs.
The longest flight of stairs you've ever seen to the side of this hill. So they're literally just running through the town with the cop guy calls in for the turn on the siren so everyone knows the stuff going down. So there's like really old school air raid siren starts going off. And these guys are running down they're running down this road, and so they glance to their right, go, there, the stairs, go! And they just like run up these massive stairs at the side of this hill.
A lot of people going up these stairs, and I said to these guys, like, it's probably because I'm not the fittest person in the world, but I'd never pick those stairs. Ever.
Yeah, of all the places to escape, up the hill is really bad because, like, where are they going? Look, they're panting really slowly up the stairs over that hill.
The stairs just weren't a good option anyway because they weren't hidden; they were literally just in the open. And he's like, climb these stairs. Like, why are you slowing yourself down on purpose?
And the dumbest thing is they find a road at the top of it. It's like they could have stolen a car and it would have been fine.
Heroes can't steal cars, Valanda.
Of course, they have to be good, pure people.
Exactly.
Anyway, so they run across this road they find at the top of the stairs and they run into the desert, which we all just thought, that's the dumbest shit ever. You'll have no supplies. They can still see you because you're in like a desert type area.
They keep the pod people keep being like, where are they? There they are on top of that hill. So like they keep
wearing the white dress in the brown desert. Like, oh yes, I always miss them skylining themselves over there.
They keep like climbing hills and getting spotted.
Like, you guys are making no effort to hide yourselves.
What I thought was very fun about this is he still managed to keep his tie on pretty well. And his jacket, like she basically had taken her jacket off already, and he was wearing this jacket at the time. It was still very well done up. Like, okay, he still has some class. Anyway, they make this trek across the desert.
High heels on as well.
And she still has high heels on, yeah. And they find themselves, as you do, in the middle of the desert somewhere, in a mine. They managed to run to a mine. And this begins, like, probably the most sensible thing they have done in this entire point. They go to the mine. They realize that some of the boards on the floor have, like, hollows underneath. So they hide in the hollow and move the boards on top. And they then proceed to have, like, the weirdest scene where they're, like, really freaking close to each other. Like we are three, like, you know, a couple of millimeters from just, like, kissing each other. And we just see like the entire town running across the board in one direction and running back in the other direction.
It's like they got bored really fast. They didn't look for it. They're just like, oh, no one's in here. Let's leave.
Yeah, search the mine. We looked for like 30 seconds. They weren't that fast. Everyone piled in. It wasn't just send a couple of guys in there to look. It's like, no, everyone into the mine. Everyone out of the mine again.
Yep. It was so fucking dumb.
And then it cuts to them drinking stagnant water in a cave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they start hearing beautiful singing. And they're like, oh my God. So the guy does the stupidest thing. He's like, you stay here. I'm going to go look at the singing. And he wanders off.
He pisses off. He goes over a hill and he sees basically a bunch of greenhouses and they're being loaded up with pod things. And the music was coming from literally a car stereo. This car stereo...
The most record-breaking car stereo of the time. Like, these guys heard this car stereo over a mountain and inside a mine. Like, this guy must have been like, does this thing go up to 11? Like,
turn it all the way up.
Everyone within like 50 foot of the car just like collapsing on the floor while their ears bleed. Like, it's so loud.
Why would you do this?
Yeah.
But he goes... Go ahead.
He sees all these things, all these people loading this shit up, and you're just like, holy shit, the scale of this is immense. This is top level shit here. So he goes back to the mine because he realizes that they're screwed and they have to leave town. There's no other way, which to be fair, I think was the only thing they were going to be able to do anyway.
Right.
So he goes back to the mine and he finds damsel in distress, and she's like, I'm really freaking tired, and he's like, no, you need to stay awake. And she's like, no, dude, I'm gonna have a kip. And he's like, no, don't do it. And she's like, too late. And then immediately wakes up.
No, she doesn't. She says not to, and then he kisses her.
Yeah, while they're laying in a mud puddle.
Yeah, while they're laying in a mud puddle, he kisses her, and he pulls back and sees that he finally realizes the complete lack of any emotion she's displayed the entire film. He's like, wait, you're a pod person.
it does this really interesting thing where it looks at her, like it looks at her from his point of view, and then looks at him from her point of view, and he has this like really tropey, like oh shit, like look on his face, which you know, it's standard like my first acting response of like this is how you should look when you're scared. And this is the thing which it's a little weird for me because she opens her eyes at this point, and it's that point he realizes that it's not her because she's not responding to the kisses. And he's like, oh, is this the point where she turned into the pod person? Or was it way, way, way earlier when he saw her body in the house? Because she was asleep at that point.
I think it was supposed to be like literally when he went to go and check out the sound. I think it's supposed to be she fell asleep at that point.
I think that's what it's supposed to be, but I don't understand the rules of how this shit works if she didn't turn the first time.
Yeah, it is weird because she only fell asleep for a minute here, whereas before they'd all slept for like a little while.
Yeah, she was sleeping in the house. So the pod was downstairs, and it looked very much like her when we saw like his perspective of it.
Yeah. I mean, also, there was no pod we saw there, like in the previous one, where like when he was in the dining room and he was asleep.
But let's also be fair.
But he was still awake as well.
It's the 1950s. It honestly could have been she turned into a pod person in the cave, literally just so they could have the next scene, which is him running out onto a highway, getting chased by more pod people, screaming at cars about how he's being attacked by pod people. Oh, they're all going to kill all the humans.
They're not human. You have to run.
And everyone's just like, you're drunk. Get out of the road. And he breaks the fourth wall by yelling directly into the camera, you're next. You're next.
We saw what they did there.
I actually had a look after we finished. After we finished watching, that was apparently the original ending. It ended there. And then they added in... Yeah, that was where it ended in the original cut. And then they reshot it because it was a bit too gloomy to add a possibly not screwed ending to the end of it, rather than just leaving it as a kind of really dreary finish.
Oh, maybe that's what... Maybe they filmed the opener and the closer at different times. Like, they did the movie, they went, this is shit, we can't do it like this, and then filmed the intro and the outro.
It's entirely possible because it does at this point go back to the doctor's office where he's not being...
Not quite, because when he's running out and basically getting mowed down, he jumps up onto the side of like one of these truck wagony things, and he's like, no, and the dude's like, you're drunk, piss off, and basically pushes him off the thing. And we see it like drive past, and we see all these different names, like really big, I assume towns or country, I don't know what the hell
it says. Los Angeles, San Francisco, and it says another town in California.
Yeah. Okay, they were California stuff. And then he basically tries to climb on the back of it to try and get a ride out, and he sees it's full of pods, and he's like, oh no, we're doomed. And that is the fourth wall break where he basically looks at the camera. And then, we cut back to the hospital where, he originally started, where we start this whole shenanigan chase thing of what the hell this last hour was. And he's talking to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist and the doctor are like, yeah, this is... He's cuckoo. If this is real, then I don't know what to do with him. The brain is a mysterious thing. And as like we see this one person being wheeled in on a gurney because it's an ER. Basically, they have a conversation. The orderly just turns around and tells them while the door is open, as the psychiatrist is about to go back and talk to our protagonist Miles. And it basically says, "Oh yeah, it was really weird. He got like hurt in a truck accident and was buried under a pile of pods."
And they're like, "Oh my god, call the FBI and the army.
Call everyone."
Yeah, call everyone. We believe him now because of this random story we just overheard.
And then that's pretty much the end, though. The hopeful ending is that the government is involved, basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
Someone believed him.
Yeah, trust the government. The government's it's good, man. Like, trust the man. It's going to be okay. And yeah, that's the ending. Really, how did you find out that wasn't the how it's supposed to end?
Wikipedia.
Oh,
well, actually, I don't know if it was actually Wikipedia or like it was like the film
trivia.
I can't remember what it was called now, but the thing that has all the film stuff on it.
IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb. I think it was. But yeah, it was interesting because it's just reading about it because it talks about all the different remakes that they've done. It was like this one it was supposed to end here, but then they added in like an extra bit, which is cool because you could kind of see why it would have been like it would have been like an end there. Because to be fair, that is where he ends his flashback, and you then go back into the rest of it. So it's like if you just didn't have that, it would be fine.
Yeah. So end of the movie, and because it's 1950s movies, all the credits happened at the start, so we were forced to watch like very limited credits, and then like boom, the film was done. We're like, that's the end. Holy crap.
I'm not gonna ask what you would rate this time because honestly,
No, I think we need to. Like this
okay,
is
wanna,
still a thing. I think we need to.
You
want to
rate this one? Okay.
Yeah. Grim, you're the guest.
So what are your rating system? Is this an out of 10 or what?
Yeah, it's out of 5. Just 5.
I'd probably give this a 3. I quite like some of the theories of it, and it kind of reminded me of The Thing. If you wanted to give The Thing a PG, less like disgusting body horror thing, and it was kind of one of those like if you had The Thing in like kind of a populated area, how would you deal with it? I mean, there was a lot less kind of scientific kind of like thought behind it, more a case of like, oh crap, we just have to run away. But it was interesting, and like I can see why so many tropes have spawned from it. It's kind of difficult to look back at it now and say, oh, it's so full of tropes. It's like, well, no, this is the thing that made all the tropes. So that's why it's kind of, if you look back and you go, oh, it's so like, everything that happens is so predictable because you know it's going to happen. It's like, yeah, because this set all the tropes in the first place.
Yeah, this is a trendsetter. Drew.
A 3, yeah. It wasn't terrible. Granted, I was drunk for a lot of it, but I don't feel like I wasted entirely too much time watching it. So, a 3. How about you?
I'm gonna go with 3 as well. There were bits of it I liked. I liked that cool bit moment where they were all walking calmly towards a place. To be fair, I've always liked this body snatcher idea because it spawns so many there's so many Cthulhu games based on this idea. I just freaking love it. It's really cool. However, there are still things in it that just make me cringe. It may just be the fact that we've come from a different time now. Like the random petting of children was seriously uncomfortable. The damsel in distress bullshit was very oh my god, no, I can't deal with this crap. There were just odd little bits like that, and the scoring was so freaking out, man. It was so not good. It was enjoyable, but I wouldn't watch it again.
That's fair. I said after we watched it that if we'd planned better, we should have watched all 4 from the 1950s to the 2007 one. But that would have taken us all day.
And we didn't plan that far ahead.
No, we didn't. We just thought, hey, this would be a good follow-up to Altered Carbon, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yep. I think that when we do season 2 of Altered Carbon, we should watch the 1980s or 70s version, or whatever it is.
76, I think.
Yeah, 76. We should watch that version after series 2 because we know who's in it. We were just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Your go-to break film, so you're set for the next 4 break films.
Well, it's set up for when we do Altered Carbon. So if they do 4 series, then we have 4 movies to watch.
There you go.
But honestly, yeah, it hit the minimum requirements for me for a movie. The beginning was really rough, but then once it started going, I was like, all right, sure.
Yeah. It wasn't inspiring, but it wasn't actually terrible.
No, it was just kind of okay.
I don't know if I'd recommend it to anyone apart from the most hardcore viewers who wants to see where the origin of all these tropes come from. It's like, watch it. It's not a terrible film. It's only an hour and 10 minutes.
It is about as long. If you sat through this entire thing, you could have sat through the Invasion of Body Snatchers.
You'd still be just as confused, though.
yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's a great premise, and I think that's one of the things about this film is more interesting than the film itself is the whole idea of behind it. It kind of bits and pieces. It shows you snatches of kind of the larger thing going on around this, but you can see why it would make a great, like you say, great Cthulhu game and stuff.
Oh, definitely.
There are lots of other things based around this idea of people being replaced and stuff the Thing and that.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool idea.
All becoming in this one specific, because they're all becoming mindless, not mindless. Yeah, they're kind of all becoming the same person, or all becoming emotionless. That, if you want to take a step back, is as a deeper reflection on how things were going. People worried about this, then that, and the other, and consumerism was getting hyped like there's no freaking tomorrow. There's always a really good parallel between that and how we see society. And I think Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a good one for the time. You look at the movie and go, yeah, that's a 1950s film. The women are wearing this dress, the dudes are wearing this, and here's the tropes. These are all the things. This is what all these people are now. So I don't know. That may be just more my deeper cynicism, but
it actually it's there's a reason it was remade 3 times.
Yeah.
It's a well-made. It's a really cool idea. I won't necessarily say it's a well-executed movie in any of them.
Yeah, it's.
But the idea is really cool.
Yeah.
it's a very interesting style of body and psychological horror of just like, oh, people you know aren't the people you know, and there's like a whole actual like mental disorder about that, which is a horribly terrifying thing.
Which is kind of how they begin to spin it in this. To explain it away. It's like it's mass hysteria. It's everyone worrying about like the bomb and how the future's going to go, and they just don't feel like they're connected to stuff. Like there is very like vague like psychological stuff they try to put in here, which I think, being that it's really at its infancy at that point, it still hadn't really established properly like psychiatry as being a thing to do. I think then like having remade it a few times, they could definitely play on those aspects more.
Yeah. You would
see what
think
they're gonna
that.
do with them. Okay, I want to hope that's how they go, and they don't just go down the shock body horror crap, because that really annoys me.
Well, I guess you'll have to watch the other remakes to find out, won't you?
I guess I'm about to be disappointed, huh?
Well, I can't tell you because that would be spoilers.
Spoiler alert, yeah.
It's apparently the only thing we care about here.
Yeah, sure.
It's the only thing we hold dear.
All right, I guess that's probably it then.
We got 5 more minutes to fill, so we
do.
We have 5 whole minutes to fill.
Well, the film you're reviewing is only an hour and 10 minutes long.
Yeah,
and
it's not very long.
Yeah, it's like how you spent the entire duration of the film like breaking it down. There's not much else really to say. Really.
All right, the only criticism I have of the wardrobe department was the very first time we see Becky, we see her in this like proper swing dress. So it's like the 1950s swing dress. So the bottom's like really flared out and the top is like, tight. And then like, there isn't really any straps. It's a strapless dress. But it looks like someone has stuffed a bunch of tissue down the front of her dress and forgot to take it out. Like, that's it. That's the only other thing I could think about to talk about this movie. That's it.
It was probably that it was like, if you didn't have that, it would be a very low cut revealing top. And I think someone may have seen that and panicked and gone, oh gosh, we can't show that on TV. We need to get some coverings on that. Like, crap, how do we do that without completely destroying the dress? Well, what if we stuff some napkins down the front of it? Yeah, that'll do.
It's like a men's pocket square.
Oh, yeah. That's it. That's all I have. Everything else looks great. It looks fine. It's definitely like there's nothing wacky or out of place in this. So, like it looks like it belongs in the 1950s. It's from the 1950s. Everything like fits and suits. That's literally the only thing I had. That's the only other thing I can think of to talk about.
Yeah, I mean they did a really good job of I don't know. Well, I assume they did a good job of making things. I wasn't alive in the 50s.
Yeah, it's hard to judge it by like now. We're like, well, you've probably got way better things there from that now. But then again, saying that, some of the CGI you see fairly recently with like, they could have just like, you could have made a plaster, you could have made a fake cabbage thing, couldn't you? And like wave bounds, and it wouldn't have been as bad as that.
This is back into the day of like physical effects. Like all this stuff had to have been done. Respect to the fairy liquid guy, because holy crap.
And the guy with the fan trying to waft it away. So
oh, and the scene when he breaks into into her basement, and he's holding a match, and it's these quick strike matches he used to have back in the day. You probably still get them now. And he was holding it and looking around, and the match got like suspiciously close to his hand, and then he was like fixed it out because it's too hot. We were just like, that's a few takes. There's a few takes in that. There's a couple of burns.
Yeah. That generally must have been quite, because that was literally a time. You're limited on the time to do the whole set, because it was one cut. It was one cut that was about 30 seconds long. Cut, yeah. And it was like, that's quite impressive that in 30 seconds you strike your match, you do your whole thing without burning yourself or the match going out. So yeah, props for that one.
There are also a lot of interesting things like from just like filmmaking. Like you turn on lights, but you get like very different shadows. But like that's a whole like old school movie thing of like, oh, let me turn on this overhead light, and you have shadows behind them. It's like, what is that? It's just it's literally an excuse to turn on the powerful lights.
Yeah.
And it makes very odd shadows, like very, very harsh shadows. Which
like the really harsh shadow was especially when he was looking over the body, like the body on the pool table.
Yeah,
it was a proper like movie detective, like you're looking at it from afar and you see it creeping around the corridor. You see this like very defined shape. That was pretty much how this looked. It was really odd.
It's a very odd thing. It's something you wouldn't think about now. Like you wouldn't have that now, because even now, like film and even like digital cameras can pick up way less light. And it would look less insane.
But of course, black and white, they have to, like, you know, some things have got to kind of necessarily be sharp because they need to stand out amongst all the grey. So
Yeah. Now we're at an hour, so we can do all the bits.
All right, Grim, do you have any outro crap?
Don't think so. I think the only thing we've got, the only other project I'm involved in is Podgate itself, which may eventually be resurrected from the ashes.
It will one day, like the Phoenix, eventually have like 1 or 2 episodes and then stop again.
Yeah. But until then, I'll or until I get invited back as a guest again, that'll probably be it for me.
You can find me on Twitter at blood_BTP. You can also find the new episode of TLD goes out tomorrow. If you're a patron at $10 or above, you can have access to our first episode of Kino, where we've done the 3 backstories for our 3 main protagonists. If you can afford $10 a month, go check it out because it's fucking good. I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of them, and it was a rush, but it's worth it. And I'm just go check it out. Other than that, I think there's no White Vault this week. I think that's next week, and I think that's probably other than Couch for It. Yeah, that's probably it, I think. What about you, Drew?
I'm Drew, and you can find me on Twitter at notthatdrew. I don't think Monday is. Yeah, no, tomorrow's not taking initiative, but you can find me there usually. And that's pretty much all I'm currently doing, other than Couch for It. So you know where to find me every Sunday.
Well, we're back next week with the first episode of Sabrina.
That's true. Yes, that's gonna be a good one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right, I think that's everything then.
Yep, it is indeed.
Thank you for joining us for that. I expect next movie it's going to be. Let's do more alcohol and more terrible movies.
I agree. I think this is going to be worth it.
I think so. But thank you again, and we will see you all next Sunday. And you can find this episode on the podcast on Friday at some point.
Hopefully.
Fingers
if not
crossed.
first thing Saturday.
Yes. Friday, Saturday. It's a little more loose than the stream.
Pretty chill. Yeah.
But it'll be right around Friday. Anyway, bye everybody. Thank you for joining us.
See ya.
Bye.